Hey, welcome to Digitally Overwhelmed, the podcast where we believe growing your business in the digital world is like nurturing a garden. With a passionate vision and great care, we find just the right strategies to flourish and help the people we are meant to help. I'm Cynthia Pacheco, your host. With over 20 years playing in the digital marketing sandbox, I've cultivated the tools and techniques your business needs to flourish. And alongside industry experts, we discuss SEO and digital marketing strategies that will help you make the impact you crave in the world. You can also find all episode show notes at digitalbloomiq.com/podcast. Let's turn your digital overwhelm into a garden of opportunity. It's time to get our hands dirty and change the world. Hey, I'm back. How's it going? I've been a little bit MIA with the podcast. Just a lot of behind the scenes, just shifting, planning, which is perfect for this episode because we're going to be looking at a year's worth of SEO. But yeah, last year was crazy with the new baby and just looking at all these areas of my business that I'm shifting over to the team, and it's all good things, but with all changes also come the mindset work and the structural work, right? So I'm sure all of you understand that, and I'm excited to be back. I'm really excited about this year. I have a bunch of really good topics and ideas and resources and things lined up to continue helping you with your SEO, with your Google Analytics, and with your digital marketing. I have some really great guest experts I'm bringing on. And what do you guys think of the new intro? Yeah, I like it a lot. As always, I like to hang out a lot on Instagram, but you guys can also email me, cynthia@digitalbloomiq.com. I love hearing from you. And if you just share the podcast on all your social networks, like wherever you hang out the most, and just that makes a big difference. And I'll see that as well, and it makes me happy. All right, so we're kicking off this year talking about planning a year of SEO, which is kind of cool. Maybe for some of you it freaks you out, maybe it's too much. So just take whatever you find useful, right? So if a year is too much, then do a quarter. If you like to do it monthly, do it monthly. The reason why I'm proposing this year of SEO is that I find sometimes just when you're starting, doing keyword research and going back and looking at metrics, maybe you have that desire to do it ongoing as you're learning it, which I still recommend in many cases. But in my case, I'm finding it much more of a relief to actually plan out the full year with what I'm planning on offering and selling and what I want to do this year. And then allow for creativity and just different ideas and things come up. So there's this structure, this plan, but it's not set in stone. It's kind of like the structure that I get to play with. And it also keeps me accountable. And I feel like that's a big part with SEO, right? Because we're creating this content and we're trying to understand what's ranking, what's working. And with all marketing, just getting that accountability can be helpful. And so putting that plan in place from the beginning can avoid this idea of like, what should I be writing about? When you sit down to do your SEO tasks, or what should I be looking at? What reports, what tool? Like that shouldn't be happening. You should just be getting into it. You have your tools, you have everything ready. And in some cases, it's like kind of fast, ideally. All right, so let's get into it. So the first step, and this is literally what I did with my plan this year, is I just looked at my goals. So I've been doing I actually haven't finished my goals for the business for 2023. I'm really taking my time with this. And I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to like get it done by the end of January or even December. And now I'm kind of like savoring it and really getting into it and like feeling into it, not avoiding it too much, but you know what I mean? Like letting it seep into what I want to dream, and even thinking about 5-year, 10-year goals is really fun for me. I know not all of you are goal oriented, but so both for your business and then with your SEO, what are you wanting to do, right? So you could get really specific, and that's helpful, of like, I want to grow my traffic by 50% or 100%, or I want to increase the leads coming in or the sales coming in through SEO by X amount. So I recommend just setting some specific goals there. You can also set some goals around what you want to action. So for me, I'm committed to 1 new blog post each month, and that feels like I could do that. And really the focus for this year for me is really quality over quantity. And that's what I'm focusing on. So if I fall behind 1 month, it's fine because I know I can catch up and it feels like a really manageable goal. So once you have your goals, you want to, like I just said, just be clear of like what metrics you're going to be tracking. So how many blog posts per month? Like, you can easily track blog post publications, or if you work with a team, then you can set that for your team. And then you can also track things like clicks, impressions, sales, return on investment, that sort of thing. And if you're working with Google Analytics, you can set your tracking up so that Google Analytics kind of does that math for you of just understanding how many sales came from SEO, which is pretty cool. And if you haven't set up your Google Analytics 4, highly recommend you do. I have a whole course called Google Analytics for Business Owners 101, and I walk through how to migrate to GA4 and how to do the basic setup. So check that out just by going to the site digitalbloomiq.com, and then at the top under the courses, there's the Google Analytics one. So you want to be clear about your metrics. And I know maybe some of you are geeky or maybe some of you aren't, but if you're not and you have a team member who is, make sure to hand this off to them. Find someone on your team who likes looking at this stuff and help you with that. And finally, just get clear about the tools you're using. Like I said, Google Analytics, your Search Console. If you're using any other plugin or any other analytics tools, just have those set up from the beginning instead of later, a couple months go by and you're like, oh, I don't know if we made did we track this? You can also think about setting up a spreadsheet or a document to track those goals. And this is what we do for all our clients, right? So we track the progress on different pages and different metrics based off what we're working towards. All right. So as part of this planning, I also recommend to look at your current traffic data. So the reason for this is that you might be in a season of creating lots of new content, whether it's specifically blog content or other content that you plan to repurpose to SEO. Or you might be in a season of optimizing old content and you really don't have the energy, or your team isn't focused on creating new content. So whether you're doing one of these or both of these, it's great to have something like Google Analytics and the Search Console to back up and say, hey, there's an opportunity to go back and improve old posts and just make them extra awesome because they're on page 2 of Google. And they could be on page 1 of Google if we, added some content, or we refreshed the page, or maybe we added a video that we already have and we forgot that we have and we haven't added it to the page. Sometimes optimizing old content is cleaning up the outline, the structure of the content. Sometimes it's adding helpful images or an infographic. So I want to remind you, it's not always about adding more and more and more. It has to be something that you really do think will be helpful to that set of the audience. And then in terms of new content, that's pretty easy. Just like looking at keywords that you want to target based off what you're selling, your goals, and you do that keyword research, right? So I would say it's usually easier to focus on one or the other, but if you're doing both, that's fine too, but you can just sit down and map that out. So for me, I sat down and because I'm doing one blog post per month, I'm planning on just doing new content this year, but it's high quality content that I think is unique and really helpful to people that they've never seen before. So I guess, the next step, which I've already mentioned, is just deciding this frequency. So if it's monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, daily, quarterly, every 2 months. A lot of people ask me, how much should I be blogging? Should I be blogging weekly? And honestly, there's a lot of different factors to this. But the number one thing I tell people is, what can you sustainably hold, right? So for some of you, weekly might not be enough, right? You have a lot to give. For some of you, you're in a season of less and you just want to focus on other things. So maybe quarterly is your jam. The point is that, yes, adding content to your website frequently can help Google see it as just like a fresh and alive website, but it's not the only factor. And there's many other things. So for example, this podcast, I am playing around with a bi-weekly schedule this year. Now I'm giving myself the opportunity to publish weekly or even beyond weekly, because I might have other things I want to randomly talk to you guys about. So I have the structure of bi-weekly, like that's my goal, but then I'm happy to like get out of that goal because I might have more. And so the idea is that the goal is actionable, it's easy for you to reach, but it's not tying you down and it doesn't feel restrictive. And next thing that I did for planning my year is to batch my keyword research. So this is something I teach in the course, Homegrown Traffic. So I actually have a 3-step methodology for keyword research. And keyword research, it doesn't have to be complicated, but it does require some thought. It does require you to maybe do a little bit of market research and to really think about what content are you committed to creating, and also maybe how can you recycle, reuse, and just transform content you already have and make it into a blog post. So if you work with a team, one thing you can ask your team to do is to actually make a list of content you already have, either in your social media or if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, and look at if any of that content could align with a blog post, and they could create like an initial draft of that for you. And then you go in and do those final magical touches that you do. So this is a way to speed up the process. And I actually have some lessons in Homegrown Traffic where I teach you how to take a podcast and turn it into a blog post that's SEO friendly, how to take social media content, turn it into a blog post. So there's different options there. But at the end of the day, keyword research is going to help guide you, not necessarily where to put your keywords, because this is like a big myth, and I've talked about this before. We're not robotically putting key phrases and words into the titles, into our meta descriptions. We are meaningfully using those words in a way that is helpful to people, because Google's language processing is much more advanced than that, and it actually doesn't matter as much. Now, there's still some interesting areas that you can use for people to find you on your blog posts. Like I said, the title, the URL, all those places. But the focus is much, much more on what are we actually saying in the content and how are we creating a meaningful experience on our site. And last year, the last live round of the course, I actually re-recorded all of the foundational lessons to reflect this shift in how Google sees our sites and how I now recommend to both clients and students to do SEO and use keywords and that sort of thing. So I'm excited about that shift, and definitely check out the course if you want to learn more about that. So when I'm batching my keyword research, I'm also looking at like what content am I planning on publishing on other platforms. So for example, there are some blog posts that are aligned with podcast episodes personally for me. You can also look at like, what are you selling? Do you have any big launches in the year? And could you plan some of your blogging a few months out so that it aligns with what you're selling? Because SEO takes time. Sometimes it's hard to like align it in a way so you're getting those leads like right away. But you could definitely do some things, and it, you should be launching and relaunching things. So it's always going to work in your favor. But it can be really helpful to align, for example, like I said, a blog post with a podcast episode, because you could record the podcast and then have your team help you create a blog post there. So you're kind of doing 2 in 1. All right, so you've got your frequency, you've got your goals, you've got your keywords. And so now all that's left is just to kind of organize yourself, set some reminders and due dates of like when tasks need to get done. And this is actually something we're working on now within my team, of like looking at when do things need to get done. And using something like Asana can be helpful, using a spreadsheet, whatever you need to do to, like, if you work alone or work with a team, what are those structures that you can put in place just to make sure that things do get done? And then the last thing that is really important, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, is to set up monthly reporting to track your goals. So this can be a combination of Google Analytics and the Search Console. This can be just spending 15 minutes in the Search Console, looking at some reporting, filtering to the keywords that you want to look at, and then that's it. I do recommend documenting it. So having a spreadsheet, having a document where you and your team write down that information, and then you go about your day. So monthly is a great starting point. If you want to really get into it, you could do it weekly, but you might not see too much traction. And then quarterly and every 6 months, every year, you can look at those bigger data sets and numbers and dates to get more information. All right, so those are my steps. I do have a little bonus here. And again, I mentioned this is like, get some accountability, whether you have another business owner who really wants to get into their SEO this year. Could you guys pair up and on a monthly basis, share each other's numbers and kind of learn from each other? Do you have someone on your team that you could schedule a call with as you're getting this started initially, maybe bi-weekly and then monthly, to get this task going? So that accountability can make a big difference. And if you're looking for extra accountability, the SEO course is now a month-by-month kind of membership model. So there's still access to the lessons and everything I teach in the course, from the keyword research to the technical SEO, to how to sell SEO as a service provider. But now we've got monthly Q&A and writing calls. So there's 2 calls each month where you get to ask me and my team anything related to SEO, and you can just get our feedback on things. So I know it can feel a little weird, and maybe for some of you, it does feel like you don't want to share openly, your keywords, because there actually might be competition out there. I'm still figuring out how to provide that support in a membership in a group format without giving away what you're doing. But for now, you'll be able to share. And then if there's something that you don't want me to mention, I'll just let you know. I'll just give you feedback through an email. But there is a Facebook group. And like I said, there are these monthly calls. And I really feel like there is a benefit from just sharing within a group, because there's so much to learn from each other. And there might be something that one of your fellow students are experimenting with, and that experiment actually gives you ideas or like shortcuts some things you're working on yourself. So it's really exciting. Again, you can check out the course by going to digitalbloomiq.com, and then under the courses tab, you'll see SEO course. All right, my friends, I am so excited about this year. I'm so excited about everything that we're planning and doing in our businesses. And I hope that you're able to kick off this year with really great energy and some really exciting SEO plans. All right, I'll catch you next week. Bye. Hey, it's Cynthia again. I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope you found this episode helpful and that you can apply the strategies and mindset directly to your business and see the growth and impact that you are dreaming of. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean so much to me if you could leave a review about any learnings and reflections. And also feel free to share with a friend or colleague who would find this episode extra helpful. If you want to get notified of new episodes, make sure to hit subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to the show on. And lastly, you can sign up for podcast email updates by going to digitalbloomiq.com/email. email. We also periodically send free SEO resources and guides, so this is a great way to continue your SEO journey. Thank you again, and see you on the next episode.